Welcome everyone. Today we're going to introduce you to circular energy, circular economy with our guest speaker today. So the title of the online session, Entrepreneur Motivation to Participate in the Circular Economy. So Youth Opportunities is a global platform um, which promotes both national and international opportunities to facilitate symmetrical access to information for youth from all over the world. And it's a free, easy, and instant access to opportunities for all of us. So we're so happy to have our guest speaker for today. She's Ms Alizée Ccm. She is the founder of Zero Waste Shanghai. She's also an expert in sustainability, environmental awareness, and the circular economy. And that is today a big part of her work. So she's deeply passionate about human and planet well-being. She strives toward a complex balance bottom line people, planet, profits, and she's also working in photography, documentary, and writing for brands. And her new books, KAILU, The Open Road, and Shanghairen, I think that it means people in Shanghai, have been written in 2022 and will be released in the near future. So during the session, Ms. Alizée will share with you the sources of information you need to learn about circular energy and add a component on entrepreneurship and environmental protection. So again, thank you so much for giving us the honor to have you today, Ms. Alizée. Like, we know that you're extremely busy with all that you have to do, so we are really grateful to have you. And let me also introduce you to our official partners. First, we have International Global Network. It's an organization engaged in youth development programs, established with aim of bringing together youth across the globe to cooperate with each other in business, technical, culture, and social movements. IGM has consistently put to the effort to arrange various of connecting youth leaders to the world. And we're so happy because International Global Network has also their representative in Madagascar. Also, we have Tonza Eco Generation. It's a global platform for environmental education and a network for young people. To facilitate this goal, environmental awareness ambassadors from all over the world are nominated twice a year. And in their platform, we can see a lot of reports regarding environment such as extreme weather or climate change. So I really suggest you to visit their report. It really raises your awareness towards environmental protection. So we also have Alternatives Madagascar as our official partner. It was created in 2020 during the COVID-19 by committed young people who are convinced of the importance of supporting their peers, particularly underserved and vulnerable young in remote towns and villages. Each of their intervention is based on paradigm shifting techniques, including promoting equitable participation of youth, aware of human place in the whole scene area, to shape the changes they desire. So we're so happy because the founder, I think that he's here, Mr. Narinj, he's from Madagascar, and I think that he also participated in the YALI program from the United Nations. So today, the moderators will be me. I am the ambassador of Youth Opportunities, International Global Network, and Tunza Eco Generation for Madagascar, and also Nand. who is also the ambassador of youth opportunities in Madagascar. But unfortunately, today he couldn't attend that because he's on a trip to South Africa for a training. So I'll be your moderator for today, and I hope that you won't be tired of me since until the end of this webinar. So this webinar is a certifying webinar. You'll get an international certificate of participation offered by Youth Opportunities. So I invite you to wait until the end. And when I tell you to take a screenshot, you will take a screenshot of the Zoom. And I will send to you a Google form that you will fill the information needed. So I think that that's all for me. So if you're ready, Ms. Alizée, we can start the online seminar.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I'm super happy to be here, and the honor is all mine. So I'm just going to take some time to share my screen, and then
all right.
Thank you so much. Can the host enable me to share my screen with the
excuse me?
Can you help me share the screen to the host? I think you can help me, allow me to share my screen. That way I can.
Just one moment.
Take your time.
Yeah, I see.
In the meantime, I'm going to say hi to everyone in the chat. So my name is Alizée Ccm. Ccm are the initials of my middle names. I'm currently in Belgium, and I'm just really happy to be speaking to you all today. I speak French as well, but I think I'm going to do this session in English. But I saw in the questions that I got before that some people speak French. So if you want to ask me questions in French later, or even like after the session, if you want to add me on LinkedIn, I'm more than happy to do so. But this session will be in English. So I'm just waiting to be able to share my slides. So the idea would be for me to share 45 minutes of presentation, maybe a bit less, to share more about like my journey as an entrepreneur, as a woman, but also like talk, of course, about the circular economy. And I think most of you are based in Madagascar, if not all of you. So I figured that I also add cases of how the circular economy has already been implemented in other countries in Africa and how you can relate to it afterwards. So it's going to be pretty intense, but I think I'm going to, again, introduce this very lightly to you. If you have any questions at any point during the presentation, leave them in the chat. And after I'm done talking, it's up to you to talk, and I'm going to go through the questions, and then I'm happy to engage. So usually, like what I love the most about these presentations and where I learn the most is through you. So your questions, your challenges that like if you want to challenge me on anything, this is where I learn, and this is my favorite part of doing what I do. So by all means, just send me your questions.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
excuse me, Alizée, I think that you can share your screen now, like in the bottom, share screen on the bottom.
No.
It's not still accessible. Yeah.
Can you make me a co-host? Can you make me a co-host?
Just one moment.
And also, everyone, can you mute your microphones, please, so that there's no. Can you please mute your microphones?
Hello.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mitra.
Sorry, Ms. Alizée, I'm still searching for the option for that.
It's okay. I think if you, next to my name, I think you can maybe make me a co-host. If you go into the chat.
I only see make host there, so Yeah.
Okay, maybe can I send you, okay, maybe I send you my slides on email?
Yeah.
And then you can share
them. Yeah.
2 minutes.
I'm so sorry for this, Ms Alizée.
Just 1 second, I'm sending you the slides.
Yeah, no worries.
Just seconds. Okay. Just give me 2 minutes and then we can send you away.
Yeah, no worries. Take your time.
Okay. Okay, it's on its way to you.
Yeah, thank you. I received it. I am about to download it now. Just one moment. So it's downloading, and I invite everyone to take a sheet of paper and a pen to read, because it will be like really interesting and you'll learn a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, the goal of this presentation is really to give you an introduction to the circular economy. I know we spoke a bit about the circular energy here, but I'm going to differentiate the two. My focus is my expertise is definitely more in the concept of the circular economy. It's different from circular energy, so I'm going to make the difference. But again, I think the goal of this presentation is really just to introduce you to this concept in a very simple way. And then if you have extra questions, if you want to go deeper in some technicalities or anything else, you can do this. We can do this at the end. So I also want to make this like fun and interesting and relatable for as many of you as possible. When I started my journey, I was, I think, around your age. I was in my early 20s. So I think, yeah, it's just, I want to make it as relatable as possible.
So I'm almost in the half of the download. So I don't know, before starting, does anyone have questions to Ms. Alizée and all of that? Or do you have more things to share to us before starting?
Well, maybe I get started with the first slides without that. Maybe I just get started. I have the slides in front of me, and once you have it, we can just keep on going. So I guess I'll introduce myself just professionally. So like Nancy said, like my name is Alizée Ccm. I'm the founder of Zero Waste Shanghai. Zero Waste Shanghai is a small company that I started in 2015, 2016. I'll tell you how I got there. I'm considered a circular economy expert. I've been studying the circular economy since 2014. I'm a TEDx speaker. I also am today a consultant on environmental and sustainable strategies for big companies. But like, so I've been working in the corporate side of sustainability for like almost a decade. And in the last year or almost 2 years, I've been wanting to go to the more creative side, and I became like a photographer, a writer, and a documentarist. Still in sustainability, it's just the creative side that I added to it. So today, Nancy asked me to share about my entrepreneurial journey, being a woman entrepreneur, talk about the circular economy. And like I said earlier, I really want to show you practical cases as well of the circular economy to make it really more relevant to you. Also, I received all of your answers of the questions that you answered before entering this, this presentation. And I have to say, quite amazing for me to have this input before I basically put together my presentation, because that way I'm able to really cater it to you. So what I was thinking of doing is divide the presentation into 2 big parts. First, I'm going to take you through my journey of the last 8 years, so that you understand how I got to work in sustainability, because I didn't do studies in sustainability. I did not work for a big company in sustainability. It's really something that came from me. And I think it's very simple actually. And I think that's really relatable. So first we're going to talk about that and that part. And then in the second part, we're going to deep dive into the circular economy and the practical cases. So that's kind of what you can expect from today. And I can maybe start with, I'm just going to start with my background. So I'm from Belgium. Yes, great.
Great. It's ready.
Yeah, that's it. Can you go to the slide with the 2 pictures at the bottom?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Number 4. The next one.
All right.
Next one. This one. Okay.
All right.
So perfect. Thank you so much, Nancy. Perfect. Okay, so basically, I grew up in Belgium. I grew up with nature being like a very normal part of my life. Like when I was not in school, I was outside. My summer months were spent also outside, living under a tent, learning how to make my own oven, cook over fire, like build things. So sustainability has always been part of my life, and it's always been normal. Even like my dad was someone who is like very conscious about like the food that we eat. Like he would buy healthy organic vegetables before without packaging, before it was cool here to buy organic vegetables, things like this. So this is really like the environment I grew up in, but I was never aware of it because it's like the air that I breathed. It was just very normal to me. And then I arrived in Shanghai for an exchange semester in 2014 with my studies. And the city, I mean, as you can see from the picture, it's quite different from the other picture where like it's all green. The city of Shanghai is really amazing. It's full of energy. There's so much happening. There's twice as much people in the city of Shanghai than there is in my country. So it's really, really vibrant, and I loved it. But one thing that shocked me was not necessarily the culture, but it was the environment. But still then, like I wasn't really like, shocked, or like I didn't think like, oh, I have to do something. That came. So after those months in Shanghai, I went back to Europe to finish my studies, and I was doing this program in business management, in like the design and creative industries, and the last course was called Sustainable Luxury. So in the next slide, basically my that 1 week of classes, we watched depressing documentaries. We watched about the dark side of chocolate. I'm from Belgium. Chocolate is a big thing here. We watched the dark side of fashion, inconvenient truth. And this is where, for me, everything changed when I saw all the problems. But at the same time, it were like all we were shown and given were problems. But I was thinking, if there's problems, there are solutions. So like, where are the solutions? Where are the solutions? And someone in my class told me, my school told me, like, if you like this, industry, you should watch, you should look up the circular economy. Yeah, next slide, please. And so I went onto YouTube and I typed in Ellen MacArthur circular economy, and this is the video that I saw back in 2014, and it changed my life. It was 30 minutes. I had to pause it 3 times to catch my breath, because what I saw there was a woman who explained a new way of functioning in the world, where basically the environment and finances and social problems actually could be solved, not fully because we're on planet Earth and it's never going to be solved, but she provided me a solution and a framework, and it became something that I became very passionate about, and that's where I started researching about the circular economy. Next slide, please. So what is a circular economy? I'm going to briefly explain it here before we get to the other side of the presentation. But so to explain the circular economy, I have to explain the linear economy first. Today we live in the linear economy, which means that I'm going to extract resources from the earth. I'm going to make a product. This product, I'm going to sell it to my consumers. I am going to use it, whatever. When I'm done using it, I'm going to throw it away, because there is no other solution for it than to just throw it away. But that's not sustainable because we create garbage. Then we have a recycling economy. A recycling economy is when we think wait a minute, there's a couple of things in here we can use. Maybe we try to reuse it a couple of times. And that's fine. It's okay, well, I suppose I can use this plastic. I suppose I can take out the battery. I suppose I can take out some of the precious metals in here. So, okay, but the recycling economy is not efficient. We live in a world where money matters, and that's just a reality. As much as I would love it not to be, it is a reality. And so recycling is actually very water, energy, resource, chemical intensive. It's not bringing you a lot of money. It's just not very easy. So then the next step, the circular economy, is an economy in which we're not going to think okay, we have a problem here. This is waste. So how do we solve this problem? It's how can we prevent the problem from the very beginning? And the way that we do that is through design. So if I'm a phone company and I want to make a phone, in the circular economy, I have to think, okay, well, I have to design this phone so that at the end of its life cycle, it's super easy and super efficient for me to dismantle this phone and to very easily be able to recycle or resell or whatever, or give certain of these materials to nearby companies or other organizations who can use it. But this has to be thought of at the design process, not when the product has already been used and created. And so this is the entire idea of the circular economy. It is very similar to how things work in nature. One example I love to give is when a whale dies in the ocean, it takes about, I think, a couple of days until it hits the bottom of the ocean. Within 24 hours, sharks that only eat maybe once or twice a year come to the carcass and eat as much as possible. Then after a couple of weeks, the crabs come and they eat whatever is in between the bones. Then after another couple of months, there is a certain type of worms who go onto the bone, and they basically spray acid to take out the bone marrow. And then by the end of a couple of years, the entire whale is just gone and has fed millions of organisms around it. And that's because like nature there's no waste in nature. Waste is something that we humans have created through the linear economy, and the circular economy is inviting us to think in how we do our products and how we design it and how we use them and how we can just basically copy what's happening in nature. So that's the circular economy. Next slide, please, Nancy. So when I started this, I'm still very passionate about this, but I was young, like I said. And so you can click more, there's a bit of text that's going to come. And so I was pretty shy, but I was very determined. I was a good listener, but I spoke very little and I spoke very fast. And so back then, back home, like nobody would have told you, oh, like this person is meant to influence other people. This person is meant to speak on stage. This person is meant to lead a movement. I was not that at all. And I'm saying this because I didn't choose to do what I do today, but because I was sharing something that I was very passionate about and there were values attached to it, other people found that inspiring, and they invited me to come and share about my work and my life, etc. But so I was never really comfortable doing what I do now. Today I am, but it didn't start like this. And I think it's important to share this because we all think that certain people who do something very inspiring or cool or whatever, like that they were born like this, but it's absolutely not true. This is me holding a worm. The first couple of jobs, the first things that I did was to compost my food, something that's very normal if you live in the countryside or like if you don't live in a big city. It's to turn your food back into soil. And I used red worms like this to do this. I used to hold workshops that I would charge like $10 for, $15 for, and I would give people something that I made from like a plastic bin and some soil and some worms, and I would teach them how to do this. And I thought I would do this once, and people loved it so much, they asked me to do this every week. So every week I was giving workshops on these things, and I have distributed, I think, thousands of these bins throughout just the city of Shanghai where I lived. And that's where everything started for me. It's really from something like this small. Okay, next slide, please, Nancy. And so I think life is 10% what happens to you and 90% on how you choose to react to it. I could have been like, no, I'm just too shy. I don't want to engage in this. Like, this is very much out of my comfort zone. Or you can just say like, well, these are my values. This is something that is important to me. People have literally asked me to do this workshop. I have not thought like, oh, like what could I do? Like, maybe a compost bin workshop. I asked the people in my community in group chats, on my social media in China, I asked them like, what do you want to learn? And they said, we want to learn this from you. And then I created the products or the services that they wanted. But so I started doing this. And then the people who would come to my workshops were people who also worked in schools as teachers. Sometimes there were people who had kids and who worked in companies. And then when I would do the workshop, I would first explain how we got here, like how did I get, like why am I here today in front of you? Why am I doing this workshop with you guys? And then I would explain the circular economy. I would educate them. And then people would say, wow, this person actually knows quite a bit about this concept. And then after the workshop, they would come to me and they say, can you come and speak in my school? Can you come and speak in my company? I will pay you to speak a bit more than $10 or $15. And I was like, yeah, definitely. And then I went into their companies or their schools and I did the same thing, but maybe a bit broader. I would explain more, make it more relevant to whether I was in a school or in a company. And then again, it would be inspiring for some certain people. And then they said, okay, like what's the next step? And then I'd say, well, we could do a training, we maybe go a bit deeper into the topic. And they say, cool, let's do it. And then they would hire me again. And then when that was done, then they would say, okay, like what's the next step? And I'm like, well, we have to maybe do a waste audit to see where is the waste coming from? Where is it going out? How can we reduce it? And it's yeah. And then they would hire me again. And this is how I built my brand and my business. Next slide, please, Nancy. And so this is how in 2016, I started Zero Waste Shanghai. It was very much just a series of consequences, and just me being out there and with the crowd and educating people and telling them how about the sustainability and the circular economy. And so I created a company in 2016. I'm not gonna lie to you, the first couple of years were really tough. I was barely making enough money to pay my rent and to live, but it gave me so much purpose and joy, and I saw that people wanted more and more. And then in 2019, next slide, please, Nancy, we had a team. So I had a small team where people would help me with consulting. People were writing articles and content for websites. We had some people in charge of marketing, and it was really great. And then next slide, please, Nancy. And then 2020 hits, and we were all stuck at home in Shanghai. We were in lockdown. And then we thought, okay, like now we have all this knowledge. We have, like, at this point, 4 years of on-ground experience with clients. Now, how can we make this bigger? And then we created small sustainability products. So we have a very simple, cheap sustainability checklist where companies can buy it and see, okay, like how can I become sustainable pretty fast? And if they want to hire us, they can go further. We also have how to run your zero waste audit, which is the other thing. So people, instead of us coming into the companies and run a zero waste audit, they can do it themselves. We give them step by step all the things they need to do. We give them the Excel sheet with all the conversions. And it's basically for them to understand, okay, how much waste do we have and how can we find solutions to reduce it first. So this is what we did in 2020 and 2021 as well. And then next slide, please, Nancy. And then so like I said, all of this was in a very corporate setting in sustainability, and I love what I do, but at the same time, I was missing something, and that was my physical, like my environment. This was one weekend in 2020, but I'm never in a situation like this, but this is where I am the most happy. And so I figured, okay, like how can I merge like living in this type of environment and my work, because all of my clients are in big cities. And that's when I decided to try to merge both and still do consulting and education, but on the road. So next slide, please, Nancy. So I was in China still, and I decided for 3 months to go and meet all the inspiring people that I have met in my last now 5-6 years of doing what I do. And I wanted to meet those people. So those are basically Chinese sustainable change makers, people who just like me and the people who work for me, who have educated and inspiring their communities to live in a more sustainable way. And so they are like all over China. And I figured, okay, let me just rent an electric car. Let me just downsize and put all of my stuff in storage. And I'll just take my dog with me, and we're going to drive and meet those people. I'm going to take my camera. I'm going to film them. And I'm just going to just give them space to teach me like, what does it mean to be sustainable in like West China, in South China? What does it mean to you as a Chinese? Because my culture, or like, I don't feel I have a culture really, but like the Chinese culture is very deep, and and culture is such a huge part of sustainability, and many people forget that. And so I want to understand, like, how does your culture play with it, and how can we find therefore better solutions for China? And so I did this. So I documented it, and this year I wrote a book called KAILU, the Open Road. KAILU means open road in Chinese. And so yeah, so I wrote a book to, again, like, share more about China and the sustainability in China. Next slide, please, Nancy. And so these are some of the change makers that I interviewed. They're, again, like scattered all over China. But it was just, again, for me, really inspiring to see and to still learn and understand that sustainability in the city is completely different from sustainability outside of the city. But it was also very inspiring to see how far China is already in sustainability, and their strategies and how they perceive it, and the government and what they do. So all of this, like I wrote in this book, I hope it can come out by next year, but we'll have to see. But yeah, so this is in a nutshell, my experience and my adventure of the last like 8 years. Next slide, please. Let's see. So again, so this is, before I go into the next part of the presentation, I think this is my experience, and this was also my experience as a woman entrepreneur. Definitely, I would never have done this if I had stayed in Belgium, never, because here we're very safe. Nobody here told me to do what I did. Everybody told me, no, don't do this. This is like, you need more experience first. Like, take the safe road. Like, you're not good enough, like you don't know enough, you don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have that, da, 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 da. And so this was very much like what I heard here, but I was very fortunate to be very far away from home when I started this, and also to be surrounded with people who told me the opposite, who told me like, no, you can't do this, like you're the only one speaking about this, you're the only one who spent just 2 years studying this concept. So no, go, please teach me. And so I think that gave me the confidence. And also like I said before, like it was never like I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have an idea of like what people wanted. And so I just basically asked, like, what do you want? And it is through just following what the needs were. And again, like I think your environment is extremely important. Like having people around you who tell you that you can do it, that who believe in you, no matter how small or how far you are. I think this is really important. And especially as a woman, because at least here in Europe, we're like, women are like usually like say like, oh, I mean, men can do anything. Women, they cannot do anything here. So I think having like really good people around you who, and honestly, like most of the people who have helped me were men in China as well, who have really given me the tools and the confidence. When I had a problem, they would say, don't worry, you're fine. Like I did the same thing. I also had cash flow problems. I also struggled. So it's fine, just keep on going. And so that's something that I would just say right now before moving into this. It's like, I think your environment is key, and just moving one step at a time. And I think the slower you go, the faster you get there in a way. But yeah, anyway, I think also, I'll talk about this later, but I also like just following your values and what is important to you, and not following what someone else is doing if it doesn't resonate with you. But we'll go into this later. So my big thing is navigating the future, because the circular economy is not here today. We're moving towards it. If you remember the graph, like linear economy, recycling economy, and circular economy, we're currently in the recycling economy. Right now, people are like, oh no, we have to do something, because like, oh no, we have to move to a circular economy. We have so much waste, yada, yada, yada. So now people are just trying to find quick solutions, and quick solutions is basically recycling. Recycling is definitely part of the circular economy, but it's not the end goal at all. Next slide, please, Nancy. First, I want to make the difference between circular economy and circular energy. The circular economy is a system. It's a way of thinking and doing business. It's a way of living. It is a concept, basically. Yeah. So that's what the circular economy is. Circular energy is not really a term, but if you want to think about energy, there's two types of energies that fall into the circular economy, and that is renewable energy and clean energy. Clean and renewable are not the same thing. Renewable energy means that the source of the energy is infinite, and that the only infinite thing comes from nature. So water, solar, geothermal, and wind energies. So those are renewable energies. Like, again, they will be there as long as the Earth is here. Not all renewable energy is clean energy. Clean energy means that there is no there are no greenhouse gas emissions. There is no carbon footprint linked to that energy. So, for example, hydro is not a clean energy, but it is a renewable one, but it's not clean. Solar, geothermal, and wind are both clean and renewable. The only clean energy today is nuclear, and that's still debatable. There's a lot of discussion whether nuclear is clean or not. It's true that the simple process of nuclear energy is clean. It's non-renewable, however, but what is not clean is how do you get the nuclear energy to people's houses. And that supply chain is not clean at all. That is pretty intense. But again, today we're still figuring it out. So that's why it's like people say all sort of things about nuclear. I still believe today we need it because I think it's part of the transition away from fossil fuels, but it's definitely not the best option. So I just want to make that difference before we move into the circular economy. That is what that's what I know the most of. Next slide, please. So this is, when you talk about the circular economy with people who know a little bit about it, this is basically what people had in mind. So this is a graph where basically we explain that how the circular economy would function in our human technical cycles, right? So we make a big difference between biological cycles and technical cycles. Biological cycles is everything that has to do with foods or even like clothing that is made from only natural elements such as hemp or cotton, it's fiber, all these things. So that's the green part. So we, in the circular economy, like energy would come from renewable energies. Then you have parts manufacturer, product manufacturer, service provider, and then it would go to the consumer. There's a difference between consumer and user. I'll get to this in a bit. So then there is a consumer, which means I will consume this product. To consume is to really remove, like for the product to be gone. If I drink this tea, I'm consuming this tea fully. And then once we're consuming it or whatever is left, we can recycle, reuse, or basically turn biological cycles back into back to their original state, which is the earth, basically. So through either anaerobic digestion, biogas, regeneration, farming, composting, all these things. So this is really to just think about a plant that grows from the earth, that provides cotton flower. We take the cotton, we turn it into a garment, and when we're done using it, we basically shred the cotton back to the shirt back to fibers, which then like can be eaten and consumed by worms, organisms, larvae, who then they will feed chickens and So this is the natural cycle. The non-natural cycle is a technical cycle. And the idea for the circular economy is that we will not become owners of most of our products, of our technical products. I will not own this phone anymore. I will not own this computer anymore. I will not own my washing machine downstairs. The company will own it. Why? Because the company says that, okay, if I need to design my phone or my computer, whatever, into a circular design. But I know that certain materials, resources are going to be finite and they're going to be extremely expensive in the future. So if I'm a company, I want to keep my resources very close, which means that I am not going to sell my resources to my customers. I'm going to rent it to them. So this is where we become users. We don't consume, we become simply users. So for example, let's say my computer, I think this is an easier example. The company who says like, okay, you're not going to pay $1,000 for your computer, you're going to pay $5 a month for 5 years. And that's the only thing that you're going to do. You're just going to, you're going to pay this every month. And at the end, when you're done using it, like I want the computer back because it's not yours, it's mine, because I have designed this computer in a way that when I get it back, I can very easily dismantle it, and I need the materials. Because if I have to buy new materials, it's going to cost me way more than if you just give me back this one and I can just reuse. Because in my factory, everything is set up to recycle this. And so in a way, it makes companies and product manufacturers responsible for the products they put out into the world. But because they know their products best, because I don't know how to recycle this. I don't know, but they know. So we give the responsibility back to them and we just pay what we use. So it's in a way fair. And for the company, it works as well because they make more money, they spend less money on resources, and we keep the resources growing as much as possible. So this is basically the idea of the circular economy for the technical cycles. Of course, you can do this with clothes, you can do this with many other things, but for a big part of what we actually, for like, yeah, big part of our economy, this is possible. Apple has started doing this in China, for example. In Shenzhen, big city, they have one big factory where it's only recycling. So this is why Apple today gives you money for your phone. You can give your phone back when you buy a new one. And because they will make money out of your phone. So if they give you back $100 for your phone, like they're probably going to make $150 or $200 or $300 thanks to you. So it's a win-win situation in that sense. And then another company who is very successful at this is the car company Renault. It's a French brand here, and they as well. They also have a circular plant in France, and that recycling plant, is the most profitable out of all of the other plants around the world that they have, and that has already been the case since 2019. So it's really impressive and inspiring. So next slide, please, Nancy. So what's really important in the circular economy, and this is something as well that I learned in China, it's that in China, they look at what Europe and America are doing in terms of like development and things like this, but they don't copy paste fully what we do because it doesn't work always. And so what China does really well is that to say, okay, like what are they doing that works? And how can we apply this to our culture, to our way of functioning, and to the way that we function as a country? And so I think, and this is something that is, and I think this is something that's really important, because the sweet spot, I believe, lies between your cultural heritage, the understanding of your environment, and a market opportunity. And this is different. It's even between Madagascar and South Africa, it's a completely different world, right? So this is why, like, again, like I really want to hammer on this, and this is why I give you as well, like I have examples of other African countries, because China is just, I can't compare Madagascar, for example, to China. I can't even compare Belgium to China. It's just too much of a cultural difference and environment as well. So when it comes to the circular economy, and I know many of you are thinking like, how can I do this in my country? How can I implement this in my community, yada, yada. I would say use your culture to define what works, learn from others, but always remain critical as well. And your unique skill set and passion are the keys to your success. So I have many parents who ask me, how can my kid love sustainability? Like, what would you suggest as a study? What would you suggest as a school for them to go and study? And I always say, like, sustainability is just like saying tech. It's huge. Like we can go into energy, we can go into design, we can go into just law. It's super broad. So what I always say is, like, whatever your kid is passionate about, whatever, like when you were a child, you couldn't stop thinking of, or something that you're just really good at and that makes you happy, do that, and then figure out how to make it sustainable, and find people, companies, or solutions, or whatever, like find examples of people who do something similar, or like who do exactly what you want to do, and then learn from them. Because for me, it came from, sustainability is interesting, but what I love is the circular economy. And now when I go even deeper, the circular economy for me represents basically the relationship we have with nature. And if I go even deeper to this, it's like, okay, well, I think it's just the way that nature is designed. So this is what I like. And so this is where today, like, I go deeper and deeper and deeper. And so this is what I want to say. The circular economy is a system, but it has to be adapted to where you are. So this is, I'm going to talk about more after, but this is really important. Next slide, please, Nancy. Okay, so I have 3 examples that I wanted to share with you of things that are already happening today in the circular economy, kind of close to where you guys are. So the first one is in South Africa. There's the first industrial symbiosis project. So there's a program that has been created in thanks to the government of Cape Town. It's called Western Cape Industrial Symbiosis Program. It's basically a service that allows different organizations to connect with each other and to see, okay, well, for example, like I make tea. What is left, like the waste that I have is organic, whatever, like scraps from the leaves or the tea. Excuse me. So I can say like, okay, guys, I have 1 ton of organic waste at the end of the month that I don't know what to do with. Who else in the Western Cape needs this? And then someone else is going to be like, oh, fantastic, because I'm raising something, I don't know what. And I could really use this for that. And this is exactly the circular economy. The circular economy is not just you within your company, it is you with your community. And it's like creating links and see, okay, how can one person's waste become someone else's food or way of making money. And so by matching companies' supply and demand for secondary raw materials, it helps businesses identify new opportunities. Honestly, like I think there was one example, I'm trying to remember, it's in my notes, but there was one really cool example. I have to share it afterwards. I forgot the example, but this case study you can find on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. At the end of this presentation, I gave you all the slides. Just look up circular economy in Africa, and then there's like, you will find this case study. It's not a really long text, but it's really amazing. Some other case studies have videos attached to them. It's incredibly inspiring. So this is just one example of something that's happening close to Madagascar. Of course, this is on a big scale. This is a collaboration between 3 organizations, the government, an NGO, and I think a tech company. But it's free for companies to use, and that's pretty amazing. But again, so this is quite like higher level, like governments, etc. The next example is incredible, and I think it's honestly like one of the biggest opportunities in the future. Next slide, please, Nancy. So this doctor, I think she's a veterinarian, and yeah, Dr. Emma Naluyima's farm in Uganda. So she is amazing. So she is a farmer and a vet, and basically she has a 1-acre farm in Uganda, and she was able to make $100,000 a year just with this 1 acre. And when you look at the video, again, same website, same resources. If you look at the video, it's super simple. It's really, really inspiring. She basically uses nature to you will see how she divided up her acre of lands, and how she basically uses nature and the different elements to feed each other and to be in complete symbiosis with each other. So it's a mixed farming system with livestock and plant crops. And her farm is designed for profitability. And what I love so much about this example is that in the future, I believe that food, mobility, and health are going to be the most important industries in the world. If you want to make money, this is where you want to be. Food is huge. Like, we will always need to eat, and if you can find a way, like she did, to, and if that's something that you want to do, honestly, I would love to do this. It's to create opportunities for your local communities, make quite a bit of money with it. Honestly, like I'm completely blown away. And just being outside with nature and really harnessing this. And so I think when I looked at her video, like I really recommend you watching her video. Her video is just super inspiring. And I think honestly she's onto something, and I think this is part of the future. Yes, we can talk about like how tech and like energy and all those like very shiny things are also very like profitable, and it's true, but it also has its limits. And I think the simplicity of what she's doing is just amazing. Like I would love to go visit her and learn from her. So this is an amazing example as well. So she was based in Uganda, if I'm not mistaken. And then the last example that I wanted to give in the next slide, please, Nancy, is electronic waste. Now, electronic waste, I think, is in every single country in the world because electronics are everywhere. Electronic waste is both a huge problem, but also a huge opportunity. I talked about like electronic waste in Ghana because this is a case study and an interview that you will also find on the website. Two entrepreneurs started a project over there. It's not really developed yet, but what I can say is that in China, like one of the most successful and profitable companies is actually a company who is safely recycling e-waste. Because today, more and more companies, and again, tech companies are everywhere, they need to find a solution for safe discarding e-waste. And so if any of you is interested in like waste generation or like electronic waste or anything like this, like providing or creating a safe recycling facility anywhere, I think in your country or neighboring countries, wherever, has a huge opportunity. This is something I've seen so many people in China like raise money for, raise funds for, because there is a demand for it. It is no longer acceptable for companies to just trash their electronics. And so I think this is honestly like a whole other market that is just going to increase. And today companies have budgets and money to invest in this, but also to make sure that their electronic waste is being recycled in a safe way. So I'm going to try to find the name of that company again. Just let my mind. I can share it with Nancy, and then you can maybe share it to the group after. But there is like, depending on whether you want to focus on like the Chinese market or somewhere else in Asia or maybe some countries in Africa. I think just look at what companies like value, like what is like important for them in terms of like safety, and then just make sure to meet those demands. And then the opportunities are incredible for this. So this is something that I highly recommend. Next slide, please. I'm almost done. This is a website that I discovered only last week. I also gave the link at the end of the presentation. It's basically a map with all the different circular projects that are currently happening in Africa. So there's one circular farm in Madagascar, but you see there's a lot of things happening in South Africa. There's a lot of things happening in Kenya, I believe. So I think honestly, like just this website is really, really amazing. And I think this is really what the circular economy is. It's about creating ties where you are. So next slide, please. One thing I want to say, I'm about to round up, sorry for the long chat, but like one thing I want to say before I go is that sustainability and the circular economy are very young industries. They have only been taken seriously in the last 3 years. Many things are still subject to change very fast. Facts are always challenged. One day they tell you that electric cars are the future. The next thing they tell you, no, the batteries in the electric cars are shit. They're not going to last. So whatever you hear about sustainability, like take everything with a big grain of salt. And I think adds a lot of common sense just to it. So this is really, really important. So don't just grab an idea right now and then go with it for 20 years. Stay open-minded. This is something that has helped me a lot. I used to be so stubborn when it comes to sustainability. I had very strict ideas of what it should be like, what it looks like. And basically I found out that for me, what works the best is to remain open-minded and curious and non-judgmental when it comes to companies who are not quote unquote sustainable, because there's so much you can learn from people who disagree with you. There's so much you can learn from them. And this is really something that has helped me a lot. And also something that you have to understand is that when you work in sustainability or the circular economy, you work with an intangible threat and progress. Like the changes are so small, or like you can barely see them with the eye, and the threat, okay, now it becomes a bit more tangible with the changes in temperature and the floods, like for example in Pakistan and things like this. So like now we realize, okay, we're in a climate change. This is real. So it's a bit easier than when I started in 2015, where people thought I was crazy. But you have to understand that it's a process. Someone asked me recently, like, how do you stay positive in a world that is currently a mess? And my answer was, the world is always a mess. Okay, it was a mess yesterday, it was a mess 50 years ago, it was a mess 500 years ago. It's going to be a mess tomorrow, it's going to be a mess next year, and in fact 50 years. And that's fine, because that's just what life is. And I think just recognizing this and finding ways to make it just more, I don't know, more livable, maybe more fun, but I think understanding this is super, super important. And again, understanding that everything is a process. I may not live to see the circular economy being like completely implemented, but I do believe in this concept. And so every day I work towards this. And I know that every day that I work towards it, every time that I speak to one of you, I know that we're getting a bit closer to this. And so this is really the drive that you need to have, and have like baby steps along the way. The next step, next slide, please, Nancy. So just closing remarks. Next slide, please, Nancy. You have to be, if you want to work in this field, or if you want to work in any other cause for that matter as an entrepreneur, you have to be comfortable with being a leader. Because being a leader means that you have a vision for something and that you bring it into reality. You need to have if this is a step or position that you want to take, you need to have a very clear vision of where you want to go. I believe that your vision is part intuition, part what you feel, but also part study of the market, study of the state of the world, but also a high level of self-awareness and self-knowledge. So everything starts from you, like, who am I? What do I like? What's important to me? And then everything that you're going to communicate from you will be like for others. But that transition is, how do you paint a picture to the people who want to hear from you? Invite others to collaborate. You cannot do this alone. The more, like, your strength is in your network. So invite others to collaborate with you, but you have to keep your hands on the wheel because you are the foundation. Next slide, please, Nancy. The base of your work as an entrepreneur or as a leader in anything are your values. Your values are your guides. They have to be very well defined. They have to be almost written in stone, and they form the foundation of whatever it is you're out to set in the world. This is how I started. It was definitely not so nicely defined when I started, but looking back, the reason why I am doing what I'm doing today is because people related to my values. It's not so much who I am as a person, but it's very much the values that I was defending. Next slide, please. And one more, yeah. So it started with your values, but then with experience and time, you're going to see that more roads will open for you. So you have to be open to other people's ideas and opinions. Remain flexible with your beliefs. Trust your gut, and just use common sense. And in the end, next slide, please, Nancy. It's all a question of balance. So next slide. I think we're almost at the end here. So if I have to summarize, whatever it is that you want to do, and if that's not in sustainability, that's fine. It starts with you. Your culture, your environment are key. Because again, this is how you make it work. Move with the industry and the people. Don't be stuck in your ideas of what it should be, or don't be too rigid in your process. Be rigid in the goal and in your values, but don't be rigid with the process. And listen, learn, and adapt. Like, the more you listen, for example, for me, whenever I do a talk, especially in person, I have someone who comes to me afterwards and says, I don't agree with you. I think this is and I used to take this very personal and be like, oh my God, no, they don't like me, help. But now I'm like, okay, it's not about me. It's about the ideas that I defend. So instead of taking it personally, I listen and I'm like, okay, tell me, why do you disagree? And then they give me all their arguments. And this is where I learn, because I learn what their arguments are, what their fears, their challenges are. And those are opportunities for me to work towards that. And if you listen, the people, first of all, the conversation will be much nicer. I will learn from it, and then I can adapt my strategies in the next time. So this is really, really valuable information that I received from my mentors. And I think that's it. I think we're at the end of the presentation. I think we just have the slides, the links. So anything related to the circular economy, you want to go to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation.com. It has so much content, like highly, highly recommend. The book, Cradle to Cradle, is great to understand circular economy and sustainability as well. I highly recommend the Drawdown Project. I believe that one is, I think there's one that's a book and there's a review. I think one of the two is for free. The other one is, I think, $20, something like this. But it's amazing. And then the circular economy network in Africa is also, that's the last link here with all the case studies. I recommend as well. So this is it. I'm done speaking now. Thank you so much for your attention, for listening. Please let me know if you have any questions.
So thank you so much, Ms. Alizée. That was really informative, and in fact, there was a time like I kind of confuse circular energy and the circular economy. I think that I sent you that in our first email, if I remember well. So thank you so much, and there's a lot of things that we learned from today, and I think that maybe all of you do have questions to our special guest today. You can raise your hand, by the way.
So I see Rhoda saying I'm interested, and Hobby saying dealing with. Okay, great. Well, what you can do, for those of you who are interested in the e-waste in China, connect with me on LinkedIn, Alizée Ccm. You'll find me like this, and then I can send you the link. It's somewhere in my files. I can look it up and I can share it, but I'll also share it with you, Nancy, so you can share it with more people. But huge, yeah, I think that's really one thing that I see is being underused right now outside of China. It's the e-waste recycling, big needs.
All right, so how do you find today's webinar, guys? Like, do you have some feedback to give to our special guest for today, or do you have questions?
I'm going to go through the thing. And there's a significant link between economy development and environment. And we all know the increasing of deforestation here. What do you suggest to okay, so I think Andriamana Pitiachana, sorry, I mispronounced it. But okay, so your question is like Madagascar is a green island. I've been to Madagascar, by the way. It's so beautiful. Is it any suggestions to run our business or an entrepreneur in? Honestly, I'll have to do research. I don't know what's, I mean, except for deforestation, I would need to know what is the like why is Madagascar being, like, why are trees being cut down? Is it for paper? Is it for meat? Is it for something else? I think to combat this, I mean, combat as an entrepreneur, I think to deal with this, there's two ways you can go about it. First, I need to understand what caused it. Why are people doing this? And then I would have to suggest to either, as an entrepreneur, collaborate with a bigger organization who can basically support you to pass other legislations to protect the forests. Or what I would say is to provide people with the option to do this in a sustainable way and to provide a label. So you're probably, I don't know if you're familiar with the FSC label. FSC stands for Forest Conservation something. I think it's an American label. anyway, it's to protect certain trees in certain areas. And so today, every single company wants to be FSC certified or use FSC certified woods or timber. And I would say that if you can provide an alternative for Madagascar that is similar to this, I think this would be great. I think it's going to be tough, to be honest. But again, if you want to add me on LinkedIn, and we can discuss this. Honestly, happy to discuss these things. But right now, I don't know enough about what's happening to give you a really good example. But happy to discuss about it. The sign language. I wish I spoke sign language. Any questions?
Yeah, so I think Gloria has a question for us. She's raising her hand.
Great.
So you can go ahead, Gloria.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. I have a question. What is the difference between circular economy and corporate social responsibility?
Great question, Gloria. CSR, corporate social responsibility, is a philanthropic model. It's also it's not a system, actually. It's just how do I say this? It's a policy for companies where they show that they make efforts towards social well-being and environmental well-being. So, for example, a company would say like, "Oh, our CSR policy is to volunteer 5 times a year at a local school, or we're going to pick up trash in the ocean or in the streets." So it's more like charity. It's more like, okay, we do something like for our community. A good example I could give, let me think of an example that I could give you. Okay, well, for example, let's take a computer brand that is not part of the circular economy, but they have a CSR strategy. They would say, okay, well, our CSR strategy is to basically take back old computers, but we give them to poor schools in China, so that we refurbish them. We give them to poor schools in China so that kids can go to school and can go on the internet. And then we send our employees to those villages for them to give the computers. And this is basically our good deeds for the year. So this is it's more charity, whereas the circular economy is just a completely different way of working and living and just even producing. So it's the circular economy disrupts the entire supply chain as we know it today. So yeah, that's the biggest difference. The CSR is more charity. The circular economy is a system. So it's of working. Did that answer your question? Was that clear?
Was that clear?
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Alizée, I think we have another question. It's regarding Joda Rakutumayevcha Joda. He's asking how to start business in China, and is it a must to go there, or can we start here in our country like Madagascar?
You can start a business anywhere. You don't have to go to China. I also don't recommend going to China right now because it's they're being very strict with the COVID policy. I don't recommend going right now. I left China in December last year. So I don't recommend going there. You can start a business anywhere. But I find, again, the most important thing for having a business is having mentors and having people around you who are going to support you. You don't want people around you who say that it's difficult, the people that you're going to connect with is very important. So I don't know where you're based, but for example, if you have a good community in Madagascar, do it there. And if you know, again, like I think the reason as well why I left China is because I think I can do more in my own country. I can do more here than I can there, because I am not Chinese. I don't understand the culture. I will never understand a culture as much as well as any other Chinese person. So it's not mine to take and to appropriate. So for me, if I want to grow as a person, if I want to make more money, I want to be, and if I want to have more impact, I think I will have more impact where I'm from. So I think it's actually a good idea to start in Madagascar and then see if you can expand afterwards. But I think it's a good idea. But surround yourself with a good community. And mentors, people who inspire you. And even if they're not in the same industry as you, but people who inspire you in a way, I think super key, super key.
Thank you so much for that. And we have another question from Nissan Daranevson. You can go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you so much, Alizée, for the presentation. It was very inspiring. My question is related to the zero waste company that you own. How possible it is to live a zero waste lifestyle? Like in today's world, it's quite complicated, I think, and I just wanted to know more about that. Thank you.
Okay, good question. Yeah, so okay, so the reason why I started the company Zero Waste was because I wanted to become zero waste in my life. I was studying the circular economy, and the frustration was everything was changing inside me, but nothing was changing outside me. So I started to make changes, and I gave myself 1 year to become zero waste in China. Like you said, very difficult. I was never 100% zero waste, but I was 90% zero waste. I was like brushing my teeth with baking powder. I was not using any plastic bag. I would not purchase anything wrapped in plastic. But it is very, it's not easy. And many people like looked at me like, oh no, like why are you so difficult? Why are you being so annoying? But then certain people find it inspiring and try the same thing, or just try to not buy clothes for a year, like new clothes for a year, for example, or things like this. But it is thanks to because I was implementing a zero waste lifestyle, that's everything that people start to get interested in what I had to say, and then this is how the business grew. So Zero Waste Shanghai was the name of my blog when I started, and then when it became a company, people knew me as Alizée from Zero Waste Shanghai. That I just kept the name for the company. The company was, close to zero waste. We almost never printed anything. We were working in a co-working space in Shanghai. And yeah, definitely, I think we have supported companies in being aware of their waste and reducing. Definitely, we're able to turn a lot of food waste into composts and soil, which is so needed today. Also a huge opportunity, by the way. But yeah, I think it's difficult. For certain people, it was the easiest thing to do because it's so aligned with who they are. And for other people, it's more like, I have to do this because I have kids and I feel guilty and blah, blah, blah. Today, I am not even 90% zero waste because I went from one extreme to another, and I wasn't really happy either. Like I felt like there are certain things that I'm just like, this is just really uncomfortable for me. So I was happy to maybe produce a bit more waste than I would have before, but find a way where I feel good with myself and I feel happy that I can enjoy certain things. For example, I don't brush my teeth with baking soda anymore because it would put me in such a bad mood every day. So like I have normal I have now toothpaste in a tube, but so that's one of the few waste things that I do still. But plastic bags is something that I don't do anymore. I still buy a lot of things in bulk, but I'm not so strict and so hard on myself anymore because I prefer that we have 1,000 people who are imperfect in zero waste and have one person who is perfect. So I think it's about like seeing like where can I do efforts and where do I just say like, listen, like I'm not perfect, nobody is. It's fine to make concessions here and there.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Alizée. I think that people are really interested in today's subject because there are a lot of
Yes.
questions and positive feedback on the chat box. So we have a
Good.
question from Rad. He's thanking you for the interesting presentation, and also he's asking for advice regarding the possibility for young African or Malagasy to have a mentor, whether in Africa or in other international mentor regarding the circular economy.
I recommend you go on LinkedIn. There are 3 groups, but one is a group by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. They have over 40,000 people in the group. And I think if you ask to join a group and you ask your requests, or you go through the people who are in the group and you see what their job titles are, like what are they doing, go on the website as well. The website that I mentioned, Project Drawdown, Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So LinkedIn, Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and Project Drawdown. Go on these things, and then see if there's a person that you like. I think it's important that you choose your mentor, that you at least ask, and send them an email and say like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm interested in. I would love to share this with a mentor every 2-3 months. I won't take much of your time, but it would mean the world to me. I have done this with many of my mentors, and I have, like, I think over the 10 requests that I have sent, like 7 have replied yes. So I think for sure, use LinkedIn for sure. That the biggest community is on there for professionals.
All right, thank you so much again for all the enriching advice. And we have another question from Jenna Clay. She's asking where to start if you want to do circular economy.
Okay, where to start? Okay, I'm going to answer this question with the question of Fina Ritra, who asked the basics of the circular economy. Where to start? I think it's first like, where do you see a problem? For me, the circular economy the problem that I saw was waste. Also, waste is a very tangible, sustainable problem. Because, excuse me, like for example, like, and when we talk about sustainability, we can talk about water, we can talk about energy, but those things are very intangible, like you don't see it. Whereas like for me, waste is so tangible, like I can reduce that, you know? So that's a problem that I saw. And then this is where I started. And also this is where I was interested in. So for example, like I come from a creative business background. Design is part of that. I see a waste problem, waste design. I can find a way to merge these two. So where to start with the circular economy? It's like more like, what is bothering you today? Like, what do you see as a problem, and how can your skill set and your personality help to solve this problem? I think this is where you want to start. And to answer Fina Ritra's question about the circular economy, what are the basics? The basis of the circular economy is to regenerate, is to design out waste. So to remove waste from the equation, to basically have a world where waste doesn't exist. So it's to design out waste. It's to create systems and ways of working where we regenerate nature and we regenerate our environment and our communities. And it's also to add value and to keep resources in the loop as long as possible. And again, like, don't think about like, okay, we have a problem, how do we solve this? It's like, how can we remove the problem altogether? How can we make sure that the problem just doesn't exist? And that starts with design in the circular economy.
Yeah, so thank you again. I think that we will stop with this last question because time is really passing by. So yeah, we take the question from Aurelia. She's asking, first of all, she's thanking you for this wonderful enriching webinar. And she's asking, like, wondering if a circular economy could distort the economy of a country, as we keep reusing and recycling instead of consuming. It's a bit contrary to consumption, I think. Therefore, do you think it could work in a developing country?
So I think it is going to disrupt the economy, but I don't think it's going to deteriorate the economy. I think it's going to improve the economy, because today we have a consumerist economy, but a lot of money goes to, or will go very soon, to regeneration of the land, will go to waste management. Waste management is so damn expensive. It will go to health. So sure, like maybe we tell people to consume less, but we pay, like, it's like this, there is this saying where, like, if I pay $5 for a t-shirt, but the t-shirt is actually worth $25, someone else is paying those $20. If I'm not paying them, someone else is paying it. And so I think it's too black and white to say that, that, like, how do I explain this? I think that the circular economy is going to improve profits, is going to improve the economy of a country, because it's going to make your economy more stable, more reliant on the same resources. It's going to create more jobs, because right now tech is replacing a lot of jobs, but the circular economy requires us to create new jobs. So I think it's actually going to regenerate the economy. It's also going to regenerate the environments. And it's actually going to have, like, money is still going to flow, but it's going to flow in a different way. That's what I'm trying to say. I think today a lot of money gets lost just by repairing things that the linear economy is making. But and that's just really inefficient. I mean, you might as well throw your money through the window, honestly. So I'm like, instead of putting money to repair things and to try to save, can't we just put the money where it actually empowers people and gives people jobs, and also, like, just improves the earth and the air that we breathe? And again, in China, that's a big part of that. Like, today, like, China is being extremely strict and is working very heavily towards a circular economy, because today they have to pay so much money in, like, water purification. There's so many people are dying from lung cancer because of pollution. People are sick all the time. It's just, today China, again, like, is paying for the waste and the health issues that the linear economy and consumerism has created. So right now China is backtracking that. So I think it would definitely work for a developing country. I even think that the developing country actually is, like, has a bigger opportunity than, let's say, like Belgium here, a developed country, quote unquote developed country, because we are so stuck in our ideas here, and moving now to, like, a circular economy requires so much effort in change. Whereas I think if you can skip an entire chapter that's where you can just take, again, you can, just like what China did, you can learn from our mistakes and just improve faster. And then the difference between consumer and user. Consumer means that I buy something and I consume it, and that's it. There is no going back to the manufacturer. User means I get something from manufacturer, I use it, but then I have to give it back. I don't own the product. That's the difference between consumer and user.
Yeah, we have a question, but I think that I am going to collect them and send them to you. And for those who want the international certificate of participation, please take a screenshot on the participant window so we can see that you've participated. Let me share my screen. Just 1 moment, not here. Sorry. Sorry, there's a new problem, but just make sure that you take a screenshot of your name. Like you go to menu and you select participants and just take a screenshot of, you know, where you can find like your name next to on the participants. And yeah, I've also taken a screenshot of this, and I think that there won't be a problem. So again, thank you so much, Ms. Alizée, for giving us the honor of your presence today and sharing your valuable knowledge about circular economy, entrepreneurship, and all your encouragement for young girls and for young in general. Like, I think that our participants will really benefit from it. And I'll give them your LinkedIn contact for those who have more questions for you. So I'll give you the last word, Ms. Alizée, like for advice, and I don't know, what would you want to say?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Nancy, for inviting me for today. This is honestly, like, I love doing this, and thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to over 60 people today about this thing, because again, it's super, super valuable to me. So first of all, thank you for all of this. It was really great. And I think last words is, I think, yeah, just, again, I think the key to like whatever you want to do, and again, if that's not sustainability, it's fine, is really like you, like your skill set, your environment, your cultural heritage. All of this is extremely valuable in the future because it is intrinsically linked to sustainability and to how we're going to build and create in the future. So definitely, yeah, take and learn from other cultures and other concepts, but definitely stay curious about how to apply this wherever you are. And yeah, it sounds very corny, but really, like, stay true to yourself. That's very corny, but it's really true. I believe in that very much. So thank you so much for inspiring me today with all your questions. You can find me on LinkedIn. Happy to answer your questions there. And again, thank you so much for your engagement. It really means a lot to me. I feel really honored to be here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. So see you, everyone, and we'll create more webinar, and maybe that we will do some more webinar with Ms. Alizée, but we'll see regarding her availability, because she's sometimes like really busy also. And thank you so much for giving us part of your time for today. And goodbye, everyone.